DreAllDay.com.
Again, to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves all of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then we put all this together into one framework, one streamlined, codified process. We wrote a book on the subject. We've opened the university, and you're listening to the daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is why you need to aim higher. Why you need to take your visions, your ambitions, your goals, and let's raise them up a little bit. Now, Tony Robbins is famous for using an example. I've heard him say multiple times at his events that somebody will come to him and say, Tony, well, my goal in life is to make more money. And Tony says, I'll hand him $1 and say, okay, done, get out of here. I took care of you. You made more money now. You're $1 richer. On another level, though, it is us working really hard. The reason why I'm talking about this is, number one, that example that Tony uses all the time. And another is, on another level, many of us end up working really hard for a certain outcome, whatever that outcome happens to be, and perhaps we achieve it. But we could have put that same effort towards a much greater achievement with the exact same investment. Now, we know from episode number 609 that our 5 investments in life are time, money, attention, energy, and focus. We could take those same investments, put those same energies into, those same resources rather, into a higher level goal and achieve a whole lot more than what we actually did achieve had we just had a bigger aim. And that's what today's episode is about. It's about raising our aims and asking more of ourselves when it comes to just what we want in life, what we want to achieve, where we want to go, how far we think we can go, and just the expectations that we set for ourselves. That's really what this is about. We can take those same investments that we've been making, put them towards different goals, and we can achieve a whole lot more without having to do anything extra. It'll take the same amount of time, the same amount of money, the same amount of energy, the same amount of attention, the same amount of focus, and we can achieve a whole lot more if we would just expect more from ourselves. Does that sound like something that if you could take the exact things that you're doing now, the exact effort that you're putting in, the exact amount of time, the exact work, all of that, and just get more ROI, just get a higher level of return on investment from doing the exact same work? Is that something that you would be interested in? Would that help you out? Would that do something for you? I think so, because that's why I came up with this topic. Is if the answer is no, then I completely misjudged you when I put this whole topic together. You should listen to it anyway, but I think you're answering yes right now. So today is not about giving more effort. And it's not about working harder, because as you already know, in a free masterclass that I gave you, 90-minute video called Hard Work Ain't Enough. You can see that at hardworkaintenough.com. Watch the whole thing for free. I told you that it takes a lot more than hard work to reach success in life. I also covered that in episode number 1139, where I talked about why you need more than hard work to create success. And again, that is episode number, make sure I'm giving you the right episode there, 1139, that it takes more than hard work. So today is not about more effort. It's not about more time. It's just about setting a higher aim. Same effort, same time, and you're gonna get more results because of it. Just because you changed what you were choosing to aim at. Point number 1. Today's topic again is why you need to aim higher. Understand something, that everyone logically will get this, but I want you to emotionally understand what I'm about to say to you here in point number 1. Work is work either way. So you might as well get more return on investment from your effort. And when I say return on investment, you choose what that return is. That return could be your personal happiness. It could be your emotional fulfillment. It could be the money that you make. It could be the number of likes and followers that you get. Whatever it is that you consider to be the most important returns on investment for your resources, understand that the amount of work that you're going to have to put in, you got to put that work in, whether you're getting the ROI that you want or you're not getting the ROI that you want. You got to work either way. Now, you got to work hard to be doing nothing. All right. To be unsuccessful takes hard work. To be average takes hard work. And to be great takes hard work. This is why I did a masterclass called Hard Work Ain't Enough. All right. There are people who reach super high level of success that work really hard. And there are people who are average that work hard. And there are people who ain't really doing much. They're barely getting by and they work hard too. So hard work is not the difference between levels of success, even though many people who reach success or claim to be able to teach you about success, they love to preach about, oh, hard work. This person just worked harder. This person worked harder, work harder. No, that's bullshit. That is not the difference. Now, do people who are successful work hard? And could you say, generally speaking, that they may work harder than people who are unsuccessful? I could on some levels say yes, but on many levels, I could also say no. Because I've seen people who are doing enough to get by, who are working really hard. I mean, they're at work every single day, just like the successful people are. Just a matter of what are they working hard on as opposed to what the other people are working hard on. That's what creates the difference. What are you aiming at? What are your goals? Those create really the bigger difference between what somebody actually achieves, not how much they work, simply because, and here's the reason why I'm able to say this, here's the logic behind it, is because all of us are capped at 24 hours in a day. All right, I don't care how hard somebody works. They can only work from 12 a.m. to 12. They can only work from 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. in an entire day. No matter how hard they work, that's all the time they got. We are all capped out at that much time. So it is not working hard that is the difference. Is what are you working hard on? Because somebody can work half as much time as you and create 10 times the results simply because of what they're working on as opposed to what you're working on. So the logic that I'm explaining there is, even if you're the most hardest working person in the world, and how you would measure that, I have no idea. But if you consider yourself to be that, understand that you're still capped out at a certain point. And biology requires that at some point you stop working and that you rest and that you sleep. So let's say you need 8 hours in a day, you're still capped out at 16. And then you're probably gonna need to eat. So let's take another 2 hours for that. So you capped out at 14 on average here. So is hard work really the difference between one person's success and another person's lack of success? I'm gonna say no. Because it's hard work to be poor, it's hard work to be broke, it's hard work to be average, it's hard work to be rich, it's hard work to be number one, it's hard work to be unranked and unrecognized. All of them take effort, every single one of them. People say, as I mentioned a moment ago, people say that the best players and the best performers and the most successful people, well, they're the hardest workers. And as I already said, I'm not so sure about that. The person who works in the mailroom at a company, they work just as hard, maybe even harder than the president of the company. But let's just say the president does work harder than the person in the mailroom. Is the president working 100 times harder than the person in the mailroom? What do y'all think? Do you think the CEO of a company is working 100 times harder than the person who's working in the mailroom of a company, than the intern who's not being paid right now? Is the CEO working 100 times harder? I'm going to say probably not. All right, because even though people say things, I'm going to give 1,000% effort, 200, 110%. Listen, every human being is capped out at 100% effort. All right, nobody can give more than 100% of what you got. All right, you can't give what you don't have. So there's no such thing as any number more than 100% when we're talking percentage points. So if the CEO is working harder than the person in the mailroom or the unpaid intern, they're not working 100 times harder. However, the CEO is getting paid 100 times more. Why is this? The intern might make $1,000 in a year, or the CEO might make $100 million in a year. Is the CEO working that much harder than the intern? I'm going to say no. So why are they making more money? Because what the CEO is doing is worth that much more than what the intern is doing. That's the difference. And the CEO is less replaceable than the intern is. So you put those two together, then you get the CEO making more money. So the person who makes a lot versus the person who is poor, they're both working 8 hours a day and both working very hard. It's not a matter of one person working harder than another person. It's not even necessarily that they're working smarter. It's just a matter of what are you working on and how replaceable is your effort. See, if you're a really hard worker, but you could easily be replaced by another person, then you're not going to get much return on investment, because what do we need you for? We don't need you. We just need somebody. All right, you leave, we'll replace you with somebody else. I have athletes who will say to me, well, Dre, it was an athlete I mentioned a few episodes back. They were a solo sport athlete. I believe it was running track. And the young man was saying, well, I know guys who work really hard on a team sport like football or basketball. They work their ass off in practice every day and they don't get any opportunity to play, as if there was something unfair about that. And what that young man didn't understand, what a lot of people in life don't understand, is that the amount that you get paid for what you do is based on, number one, how much value are you creating, multiplied by, number two, how easily replaceable are you? That matters as well. So if you're an amateur athlete playing a team sport and you quit the team, let me ask you this question. Any amateur athletes listening to this playing a team sport? I mean, amateur meaning you don't get paid. There's no salary attached to your job. If you quit right now today, how easily could the team replace your production? How easily could the team replace your presence? And if you ain't really producing anything and your presence doesn't really make a difference, then you're not worth anything. That's why you're not getting paid. That's why you're an amateur. Now, if your presence would be felt or your absence would be felt and you would be very hard to replace, then you're probably on your way to becoming a professional. Somebody's going to have to pay you. And this works in every industry, every aspect of life. Maybe you have heard me tell the story of when I was working at LA Fitness and there was a trainer there named Mike. And Mike had been there for a while. Mike had a solid client base at LA Fitness. But Mike was starting to smell his own urine at one point working at LA Fitness. And he told this story how something that happened with him and the management, and management told him you can't keep doing something that he had been doing. And Mike was kind of pissed off and he was venting to me and he said, Dre, I'm doing them a favor by having my clients come in here and splitting the money with LA Fitness. You know, I could tell them all my clients to meet me in the parking lot. I could train them in the parking lot and keep all the money for myself. Now, Mike didn't really mean that, because if he meant it, then he would have just been doing it instead of talking about it. But the other thing that Mike, I think, unconsciously understood, I didn't say it to him then because he wasn't really asking me for feedback, and I probably couldn't have explained it to him as well right now, I mean, back then as I could right now. The thing is, if Mike had quit working at LA Fitness would not have batted an eyelash. LA Fitness would not even notice that he was gone. All right, they would have easily replaced him with another personal trainer the next day, and if that guy quit, they would have replaced him with somebody else. And I guarantee, looking back at that LA Fitness I was working at, this had to be around maybe 2007. I doubt anybody who was working there then is working there now, but I promise that LA Fitness is still there and it's still running and they're still making money. Why is that? Because none of us employees who was working there was the difference in LA Fitness's bottom line. Not one of us. LA Fitness was the difference in our bottom line. We were not the difference in their bottom line. So we were all easily replaceable. When I quit that job when I signed my deal to go play in Montenegro. I'm sure they easily replaced me. All right, they didn't throw me a going away party. They didn't call me and beg me to come back. They didn't offer me a raise to not take the job playing basketball overseas. They went and replaced me with somebody else. And when Mike quit, I'm sure he quit at some point or got fired, they replaced him with somebody else. And everybody else who was there, they replaced them with somebody else. If you are easily replaceable, your value is not that high. So the whole point that we're making here, today's topic, is about aiming higher. Your value is based on, number one, how much, or your ROI rather, is based on how much value are you creating, for whom you're creating it, and how easily replaceable are you. So if you're creating a ton of value for other people, but you can easily be replaced and somebody else can provide that value, then what's so great about you? If you're a doctor or a nurse, that's great. You're providing value for people. You might even be helping to save and preserve and extend lives. But if there are a ton of doctors and nurses who work at the same hospital that you work at, hey, no disrespect to you personally, but if you quit, somebody else is going to step up and do your job. All right, if this is true, then your price, you can't demand that much because somebody can easily replace you. If you are, however, there's a guy, I don't even know if he's still alive. I haven't heard his name in a while. There's a guy by the name of Dr. James Andrews. And James Andrews is probably, at least the last that I heard of him, he either is or he was the leading orthopedist out there in the world. And orthopedics, or don't even get me trying to explain what an orthopedic is, but I'll look it up. I'm gonna give you the definition right now. And orthopedic, if I can find a definition here, orthopedics is the branch of surgery concerned with conditions involving the musculoskeletal system. Now, Dr. James Andrews is a very famous doctor who would work on athletes who had knee issues. He's a very famous surgeon. And he's the guy that if an athlete tore up their knee or the athlete was having any kind of knee issues, and looking at on his Wikipedia page, he is still alive. He's 78 years old. He's an American orthopedic surgeon for knee, elbow, and shoulder injuries and is a specialist in repairing damaged ligaments. He's based in Alabama. He's best known and most popular orthopedic surgeons around the world and has performed on many high-profile athletes. The reason I know about Dr. James Andrews is because when many well-known athletes got injured, they would go see this guy. They would go to him to get their operations done by him. Now, I don't know how much Dr. James Andrews charges for his work, but I bet he charges a lot because he was name brand. He is name brand known for being as good as he is as a surgeon. Now, how many surgeons are there that could operate on your knee if something was wrong with it? There are probably thousands in the United States, maybe, who knows, maybe even millions. Let's just say thousands around the world. Now, is it valuable? Yes, because somebody's knee is torn up and they can't really perform on it and they can't walk around on it. They can't go up some steps to play with their grandkids. I think that's very valuable. But if there are thousands of other surgeons out there, then how valuable is any one individual person? Not that much. But because Dr. James Andrews can't be replaced by just any other person because of his name brand recognition, that's what makes him as valuable as he is. So the value is not just in what you do, but it's also in how easily can anybody else do the same thing. So here's the question you should ask yourself when we talk about aiming higher. This is a question that Mike, my old colleague at LA Fitness, could have asked himself. If I quit, how quickly would they replace me? Could they replace me? What am I bringing to the table that nobody else here brings to the table and that nobody else they could bring in brings to the table? If you don't have answers to those questions, then you're not in a position to demand what you want. This is just a fact. Everybody hear what I just said? When it comes to making money, when it comes to generating revenue or demanding how much you want to make in life, there are only 3 ways that you can make money. I've talked about this, and I'm going to find the episode where I talked about this, episode number 915. The only 3 ways anyone makes money. There is accepting, there is negotiating, and there is demanding. James Andrews can demand what he wants because people are calling him and saying, I want you, Dr. James Andrews, to work on my knee. That's demanding. Because he's at that level, he can demand what he wants. Now for you, again, we're still on the first point here. Work is work either way. Dr. James Andrews works on people's knees. There are plenty of surgeons in America who work on people's knees. Some of them are not making much money. Some of them are average, and some of them are making a lot. Some of them might be making more than the athletes make. But people say, oh, it's because they work the hardest. No, that's absolutely incorrect. How easily replaceable are you? The CEO of the company? No, I've seen stories where they say the CEO gets like a bonus at the end of the year. A company could be losing money. A company could go bankrupt. The CEO is getting a bonus of $100 million. People are like, how is the CEO getting a bonus when the company didn't even perform that particular year? Because how easily replaceable is the CEO? That's why they're getting a bonus. And maybe you believe they're easily replaceable. So look, the company's not making money. How great can they possibly be? I don't know. But somebody voted to give them that money because it'd be much harder to replace them than it would be to just give them the $100 million bonus or the $1 million or whatever the bonus happens to be. So again, instead of complaining about the game, I would suggest that you play the game. I talked about this in episode number 13-14, Hustle, learning how to play the game, in episode 12-10. Don't complain, play the game. The player at the end of the bench on a sports team has to come to practice every day. And guess what the star player on the team has to do? They got to come to practice every day too. So which one is working harder than the other? I think they're both working pretty hard. They both got to be there every day. They both got to come to practice. They both got to be on the planes. The difference is the star gets more rewards than the bench player. Now, does the star player on that sports team or the CEO of the company, do they provide more value overall? The answer is yes. Yes, the star player provides more value. James Harden, as a star player on his team, provides more value than the guy at the end of the bench on the team. We don't even know his name. CEO provides more value than the intern. This is absolutely true. But here's the news flash for everybody to understand. That's a choice as well. The intern is an intern because they asked for a job as an intern, or they accepted a job as an intern. Like we talked about, only 3 ways people make money: accept, demand, negotiate. The intern accepted a job as an intern. Maybe they asked for it, maybe they didn't, but they accepted it. The person who's a star player on the team, they have the role as a star player on the team. They probably showed up looking to take that role as a star player. The guy at the end of the bench might have been like, yo, if I could just get on the team and I'll be happy to just sit on the end of the bench. Maybe they were happy taking that spot. They were given that role and they accepted that role. They didn't have to take it. They chose it. This is a choice, everybody. One person says, hey, I want to try to work at this company. That's one person's approach. I want to try and work at this company. They get a role as an intern. Unpaid intern, maybe they'll get $1,000 a year, $1,000 a month. Another person says, I'll take any job they give me here. They eventually, maybe they become a middle manager and they'll make $70,000 a year. Another person says, you know what? I want to run this company. I want to be the person on top of this company. And they end up as a CEO and they're making $100 million a year. Who's right? Who's wrong? All right. Who's been treated unfairly? Nobody. Everybody accepted their role. All right. Again, 3 levels: accept, demand, negotiate. You don't have to accept any role people offer you. You could say no and go after something else. It's your choice what you take. And when it comes to aiming higher, are you accepting? Are you demanding? Are you negotiating? When we talk about aiming higher, at some point, you got to get to the point where you're demanding. Are you willing to demand? Because when you demand, sometimes you're going to get told no. And sometimes you're not going to get it. Are you willing to deal with that? In sports, one athlete says, I'm going to try out for the team. Maybe they make it, maybe they don't. Most of them don't make it. Not enough spots for everybody to make it. Then there's another athlete who says, I'm going to make the team. They get on the team, they might sit the bench all season. Maybe they're a role player and they play a little bit. Maybe they get the ball every now and then. Then there's another player who says, I'm going to be the star of the team and I'm going to lead the team to the state championship. And that's exactly what they do. All choices. Point number 2. Today's topic is why you need to aim higher in life. Number 2, most people in life aim for average. The reason why I spend so much time on point number 1 and explaining to you and drilling into your brain that these are all choices that we make. Most people aim for average. They aim for what they think they can do. They aim for what they think they can reach. They aim for what they believe is acceptable. They aim for what they think they will not fail at going after. This is what most people do all of their lives, aim for average. Here's the challenge with aiming for average. That's where the most competition is. Most people have a reasonable idea they should aim for something in life. At least most people who get that idea, they aim for the average. You got a few people who don't aim for anything. Those are the losers. Then you got a few people who aim super high. And I'm hoping to put you in that category today. And then, or at least plant the seeds of getting you towards that category today. And then you got everybody else. That's like a bell curve. Maybe 5% aim for nothing. 5% aim super high. 90% aim for average. So if you're aiming for average, you're competing with 90% of the population. And maybe you'll win. But there's a good chance you won't. And this is why most people struggle so hard all of their lives doing all this hard work. Not because they are not good at their job, not because there's anything wrong with them, but because the competition is so fierce for the average goals, you have to fight through the whole world just to get to something. Just to get a piece of bread, you got to fight through everybody. Now, why do people do this then? I mean, being that most people aim for average and all the competition is at the average level, why do so many people still aim for the average level, Dre? Why is this happening? Let me explain to you why this happens. Because all of us are socially conditioned to go after what we consider to be, quote, realistic, close quote, outcomes, and not subject ourselves to the possible ridicule that would come with going after higher level goals and coming up short. The reason why most people go after reality, and I told you in episode number 1062, reality is negotiable. I also told you in episode number 715, reality is killing you. That's what reality really is doing. It's killing people every single day. They end up taking their value to the graveyard. This episode 487, the most valuable resource, real estate that we have in life is the graveyard. Most people take all of their value there simply because they are attached to being realistic. We spend our lives aiming for what we consider to be a realistic, i.e. what we think we are capable of doing, and then we achieve it, but we never get the value out of ourselves. Because we don't want to deal with the ridicule that might come from the outside world if we try and fail. But let me tell you the flip side of aiming for average. The flip side of aiming for average is now you got to beat the whole world at being average. And that's a race that you probably won't win simply because you got to run against too many people. You're racing against the whole world. You could beat one person, but can you beat the whole world? Probably not. So you and the whole world are racing for average. All right, and that's a race that you actually probably don't even want to win. All right, that's a rat race. All right, you don't want to be in a rat race of trying to be the best person of all the average individuals. Episode number 970, the topic is stop running the rat race. If you find yourself in the rat race, stop running. You find yourself in a hole, stop digging. We just talked about that yesterday. We are socially conditioned to aim for average. This is why most people don't aim high. This is why I got to talk about it here today. When you reduce the amount of competition that you are going against by doing one simple thing, aiming higher than most people. If you just set your goal to do more than most people do, not even to do more, but to achieve more than most people achieve, you aim higher. You aim to get in that position of demanding rather than settling for the position of negotiating or accepting. You've already eliminated 90% of your competition. So even if you haven't gotten any better skill-wise, you have fewer people to compete against, you have increased your likelihood of success, even though the success you're going after is 10 times higher than the success you would have had before. You got a higher chance of reaching success at the top level than you have of reaching success at the average level, even without an increase in skills, simply because you have less competition. If you didn't hear what I just said, that last 30 seconds right there could be life-changing for you. You reduce competition by aiming higher, improving your odds immediately with zero change in ability or effort. Point number 3. Today's topic is why you need to aim higher. Here's a question you could ask yourself. This is your call to action here. Could you apply your same resources in a different way or in a different place or for different people and produce a higher level result? I will pose the question again. It's a 3-part question. Could you apply your same resources, time, money, attention, energy, focus that you are using right now? What if you apply them in a different way? What if you applied them in a different place? What if you used those resources and served different people? Could any of those produce a higher level result than the results you're producing today? Yes or no? There's a rapper by the name of Jay-Z. When he was getting into the rap game, his first idea was to try to get signed to a record contract. That's what most rappers do. They wanted to rap. You go around the record labels and you present yourself as a rapper. You let them hear some of your music. Maybe you rap for them on the spot and you hope somebody's interested in signing you. Jay-Z was doing that. Same thing everybody else did. The tried and true formula. It was very hard work. There was lots of competition. And it wasn't working for Jay-Z. Everybody doesn't succeed in that path, even though everybody tries it. Some people succeed, many people don't. Jay-Z was a failure at trying to get signed to a record contract. Jay-Z failed to get signed to a record deal. So Jay-Z got a different idea. He said, let me take these same skills, this same effort, this same energy, the same amount of time that I'm spending trying to get signed to a record deal, the same effort. He did not change the effort at all. His rapping skills did not change whatsoever. All he did was apply those same skills in a different way. He said, instead, let me do this. Let me start my own company. I'll sign myself to my own company, and I'll just be the owner and the rapper at the same time. I still got to work hard. I still got to rap. I still got to do shows. I still got to make records. I still got to build a fan base. I still got to do everything that I would have had to do the other way. I'm just doing it in I'm just using a different process to get there. And what changed was, first of all, he had very little competition because not too many other rappers were doing what Jay-Z got the idea to do at that time, which was to sign himself and be his own company. So the competition was much lower and the upside was a lot higher. So his chances of succeeding were a lot higher because he had very little competition, and the upside, the results that he stood to receive, the ROI he would get from succeeding was much higher simply because he took the same efforts, the same time, the same energy, and just applied it in a different way. What's the result? The result is, you know who Jay-Z is. Donald Trump. Now I know you were with me here until I mentioned Donald Trump. But listen, Donald Trump, who else had the idea before he was doing it to put your name all over every building that you're associated with? Whether you own a building, you built the building, you somehow finagled your way to get your name on the building. I didn't see anybody else doing it before he did it. He made it a thing to put your name on everything that you created. When Donald Trump built a lot of the buildings that he built in New York City in the 70s and the 80s, back when New York was not in great shape financially, he did so not necessarily because he had so much money on hand, is because he was able to get these huge tax breaks from the city of New York, where he did not have to pay taxes on the buildings that he was building. How did he get those tax breaks? You don't know how he got those tax breaks? Because he asked for them. That's how he got the tax breaks. You read his books, he talks about it. Even his detractors admit that he got these tax breaks, or even they don't say it in such a glowing way, but that's what happened. He got all these tax breaks to where he didn't have to pay taxes on the buildings that he was building in New York City, and the city would have collected a ton of money on those taxes. They gave him a break that he didn't have to pay the taxes at all because the city was in such bad shape, needed somebody to do something. They said, all right, we'll give you a tax break to do something to help the city look better. He took the tax breaks and ran with it, and that's how he was able to build up. A huge part of his reputation was based on the fact that he built so much in Manhattan because he asked for them. He was willing to ask for the tax breaks where everybody else was like, well, I guess we just got to pay these taxes. Who had the idea of not being in politics at all, but running for president and then winning? Who had the idea of doing it? Who had the idea of even trying that? Some people had tried it, but nobody got as far as he did, even becoming the candidate and then actually winning the election. Who had the idea of doing it besides him? It's not that much different from what I'm talking about when I talk about Jay-Z. There's a very similar parallel. that they were doing things, if they had done things the way that everybody else did it, maybe they would have made it. If they were just that talented and that skilled and they worked that hard and they got that lucky, maybe we would have known about Jay-Z had he signed to a record label like every other rapper. Maybe we would know him the same way that we do now. Probably not. Maybe if Donald Trump had done his real estate business the same way everybody else was doing real estate, we would know him the same way that we know him now. Maybe he still would have become president. Maybe all the same things would have happened. Probably not. The fact that Jay-Z and Donald Trump both had the decision, they made the decision to aim higher than what most of their competition was aiming for is, I'm not saying is the reason that we know them, but I'm saying it's the reason that we know them. Even if you disagree with the outcomes that somebody like, let's say, a Donald Trump created, you don't like the way he built this business, you don't like the way he talks, you don't like the fact that he won president, even if you disagree with the outcomes, that is not the argument that I'm making here today. What I'm telling you to pay attention to are the aims that he had. The fact that he was willing to aim high was the way he was able to make that happen. Do not miss the message because you, for whatever reason, disagree with the messenger or you disagree with the messenger that I'm using for this point. Maybe you don't like Jay-Z's music. You don't have to. It's not about Jay-Z's music. It's about the fact that he aimed at something that most of his contemporaries didn't even think about aiming at. That's what created the lane for him to become who he became. So what you should do is be able to look at someone with whom, even if you disagree with their outcomes, and say, all right, what did they use in their path to start creating what they created? What did they use? How did they even get how did they even get on the trajectory that they got on? And how can I use that myself? That's what a wise person would do. All that being said, let's recap today's class, which is why you need to aim higher. Many times in life, we work really hard for a certain outcome when we could have put that same effort towards a much greater achievement by giving the exact same investment. So today is not about more effort or more time, just aiming higher, asking for something other than what we've been asking for. Number one, work is going to be work either way. So you might as well get more return on investment for your effort. It is hard work to be poor. It's hard work to be broke. It's hard work to be average. It's hard work to be rich. People say the best players work the hardest. I'm not so sure about that. The intern making $1,000 a month works just as hard as the CEO making $1 million a month. Is the CEO worth that much more than the intern? Is the CEO working that much harder rather than an intern? Absolutely not. But there are two things the CEO has that the intern doesn't. Number one, the value that the CEO is creating and for whom they're creating it. And number two, the difficulty in replacing the CEO. Interns can be replaced. CEOs are much harder to replace. That's why the CEO is worth what they are worth. So for you, look at yourself and ask yourself, who am I providing value for? And how much does it matter to those people? And how difficult would it be to replace me if I went away? The better you can answer those questions, the more comfortable you are with those answers, and the more accurate those answers are, the more your value will go up. Still on point number one. There are some employees or prospective employees who say, I'll take any job at this company. There are others who say, I'm going to get a job at this company. And there's another person who says, I'm going to run this entire company. And they all end up with different outcomes simply because they had different aims. They might have the exact same skills. An athlete says, I'm going to try out for the team. Another one says, I'm going to make the team. Another says, I'm going to be the star of the team. They all end up with different outcomes simply because they had different aims. Now, do skills matter? Of course they do. But we got different episodes to talk about that. Point number two, most people aim for average. And this is where all the competition is. And this is why many people who aim for average, we never find out about them despite all of their hard work. And then people tend to wear hard work as a badge of honor. Hard work is not a badge of honor, ladies and gentlemen. Hard work matters, but you got to combine that hard work with actually going after something that you can separate yourself from everybody else with. The reason why we aim for average is because we are socially conditioned to go for what we consider to be, quote, realistic, close quote, and not subject ourselves to the ridicule of losing and having people publicly know about it. The challenge is it's hard to beat the whole world when you are always aiming for average. When you reduce competition by aiming higher, you improve your odds immediately and you improve the upside of what you can get with no change in ability and no increase of effort. And point number three, could you apply your same resources in a different way or in a different place or for different people and produce a higher level result? Of course you can. You just got to be willing to ask these questions. We talked about this in episode 1177 on insight. Asking the right question is the difference between 1x to 10x is the insight, asking the right question. I got a book called Ask Yourself a Better Question, which can help you with this as well. Jay-Z tried to get signed rapping. He changed his mind and said, let me sign myself and start my own company. Now Jay-Z is Jay-Z. Donald Trump was a real estate guy. He wasn't the only real estate guy in the world, not even the only one in New York. But he said, let me put my name on all the buildings. Let me ask for tax breaks that nobody else is asking for it. Get them. Let me run for president when nobody else is thinking of doing it. Let me make it happen, make all these things work. And he achieved the outcomes. Even if you disagree with the outcomes, pay attention to the aim. If you pay attention to the aim, then there are some things that you can suss out of it, some things you can extract from it and use for your own purposes and do whatever you want to do simply because you're willing to aim higher than most people do. Most people aim low, criticize the people who aim high as if they couldn't do the exact same thing. But today I have solved that problem and broken that mental block in your brain about the fact that you can't aim higher. I just told you exactly how to do it. Now, if you're ready to steal your mind, and I mean steal like as in the metal, S-T-E-E-L, steal your mind and toughen yourself up for aiming higher and dealing with the challenges that are going to come with it and the setbacks that are inevitable in your rise to the top, I suggest you take the Bulletproof Mindset 2.0 course, which is available in Work on Your Game University. You can access that and start it right now. I mean, right now, the full course by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.